Kevin Owens, host of the Overseas Famous podcast, here to personally invite you to subscribe to our official Patreon. Are you guys ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? Well, with our Patreon, you can do just that. And the best part, pricing starts at just $1. It's like a pack of gum. Less per month. By becoming a Patreon member, you'll unlock a world of amazing perks. We're talking merch giveaways, signed items by our guests, shout outs on the podcast, exclusive content, and so much more. Not only will you guys get to connect with me and the Overseas Famous community on a deeper level, but you'll also gain access to behind-the-scenes content and early episode releases. So don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Join our Patreon today and become part of the Overseas Famous family. Together, we will make podcast history. Thank you for your support and can't wait to see you on Patreon. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Overseas Famous podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. My favorite sort of show that we do is when we actually have an athlete that has made a great leap after their playing career and someone that I actually was able to have the opportunity to play against in the G League. So Jeff Aubry. Jeff is the executive director of the Next Gen Basketball Players Union, which is the players union for the NBA G League. Jeff, we are thrilled to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Kevin, man, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, man, chop it up. And I think the fact that we got to play against each other, it just means we're old because it's like almost a lifetime ago.
I don't know why, but I played soccer the other day. My daughter, we had like the parent versus the kids game. Right. And I played soccer the other day and my knee's so bad that I'm limping on it. And that game was on Sunday night. It is now Thursday at 4:45. I am still limping on it. I don't know how. When I look at pictures of myself, I'm like, remember when there was a time when you used to do stuff effortlessly with no pain? Yep. Those days are long gone. It's over for me.
It's awful. The other day, I play usually once a week, which is about all my body can really tolerate. But I still love playing, and I still, like, I would say I had to teach myself after I was done, with my career, how to play pickup again, like how to just have fun, how to take risks, how not to be a rim running, pick and roll guy who just rebounds and plays defense. Like I had to teach myself how to do that again, which is like going back to the beginning when you're a kid and you just try stuff. But the process of doing that, like, was so much fun. So playing now is so much fun. And obviously as my body continues to fail, I'm trying to like get the most I can out of it. But I played pickup one day, and usually I play with guys, starting at my age, a little younger, and then occasionally there'll be a 20-something, kid that'll walk in, and, pride and competitiveness doesn't let me kind of, take it easy. And then the next day, boy, do I pay for it. I was getting out of my car on my way to the office, and I went to go catch the train. And if I had ran, I would have made the train. But I took 2 steps, and I was like, man, I'll catch the next one.
We're good. I'm good. Yeah, I don't need that train that bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. It's wild getting old. And I feel you on the having to you have to retrain yourself because we are so used to, and it's ingrained in us to compete and like be a lunatic. Mm-hmm. And then you almost have to kind of like take it back. I always say like there's guys are just like, hey, come play. I'm like, what is the benefit of me playing with you? Like you guys never played college. You're not. You're just like having fun with it. I'm like, right. Because if I miss a shot, you're gonna be like, you play professional basketball, and if I dominate, you're gonna be like, whoa, you play professional. I'm like, there's no win here. I'll play soccer.
Yeah.
Throw me out of soccer.
I've been able to completely remove the need to prove anything to anybody.
Yes.
Which means that like I'm just comfortable. Like I shoot threes. I made exactly 1 3-pointer my whole career, and it was like a last second heave. It's just that approach to it is what makes it so fun. If I walked in there every day, like thinking like, oh man, I got to prove to them how good I am, it wouldn't be so much fun. It is fun because I don't care. And then the fact that I don't care actually makes me better. I'm a way better shooter now than I ever was when I played. And it's mostly because I don't really care if I make them or miss them, but it's just the process of going through it and taking them that has really like re-energized me around playing. And for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, like this one pickup game a week, with old guys, all of them civilians, none of them like, athletes. And it is a great feeling. It's a lot of fun. At times I look like Giannis, which is, great for me. But it is like, I need it every week. It's like therapy,
Yeah.
as like making a transition into an area where you're all of a sudden a rookie again and having to learn all these things and be a novice. It feels good one day a week for 2 hours to be an expert, at something I know better than most anybody. And it, in that sense, like it feeds me and keeps me going through the week.
So let's get into that, because you made a remarkable transition from a pro athlete to your current leadership role as the executive director of the Next Gen. Mm-hmm. What were your biggest challenges? We just talked about, that getting comfortable with where you are now, being like, I'm comfortable in this. What were some challenges you faced during that transition from pro sports?
Yeah. So I guess part of it was being able to wade into the discomfort, which, I think you go back is something I learned to do as a player, right? And we talk about overseas famous. It means, you get off a plane in a country you don't know that much about, and you walk out the door and you're making life happen. Which, you share that experience. Like there's tons of guys, I watch and I listen to your show, and it's, that's the commonality. That's what we all share, is that ability to now be dropped anywhere in the world and figure it out, and be willing to figure it out, be up for the adventure of it. And that really was the biggest lesson I was able to take with me once I started transitioning out. I was lucky, smart enough, fortunate enough to start the transition kind of in stages. Towards the end of my career, things were slowing down. The money was going the wrong direction. The opportunities weren't as abundant, and I kind of saw the end coming. And on top of the fact that I guess I played for I did 18 seasons as a pro, so at some point my body was not happy with me. You're talking about I wake up in the middle of the night and everything would hurt: elbow, shoulder, back, knees, ankles, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this for much longer. So what I did was I started using about half a year. I played in Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, so I played there as a native, and then I played other places as an import. So I stopped playing as an import anywhere else, and I would just play that Puerto Rico season, which gave me 6 months of the year where I could focus on kind of what was going to happen next. So I started out with a lot of informational interviews, which was just kind of doing some data gathering, understanding what was available, what I could do, what were the options. Then I would just apply for jobs, not because I wanted them, but just to see, like, I hadn't applied for a job since I was a kid. So I was like, let me see what this looks like, which was interesting, particularly because I think I was confident I could do any job. So it was like, but getting a job is its own skill set, right? So it was that I was trying to figure out. And what's really funny is, like, I'm applying for these jobs that are kind of well below my experience level. I went to Cornell. Like, I'm figuring, like, I'm gonna get these jobs easy, and I wasn't getting them. And I was like, what's going on? So this one position for like a recruiting firm, I called the guy back after I got the email saying that they were going to, looking elsewhere. And I just asked him for some feedback. I was like, look, I'm trying to figure this out. Like, what did you think? Like, what made me not be a candidate for you that you would, kind of hire? And he was like, well, I thought you lacked confidence. So I was like thinking, and I'm like, well, that's definitely not the case, because I know I can do this stupid job.
Uh-huh.
I didn't tell him that, but that's what I was thinking. And then I went back to really kind of replay how my interview went with him. And, I was interviewing for jobs the way you would interview with the press after a game, right? It's all humility. It's all, well, I have a great team, and we were fortunate to be in this position, and the other team is great, and, we got lucky, and, you kind of deflect, and you're humble, and that's how I was interviewing for jobs. And then I was like, wait a minute, hold on, I'm looking at this wrong. Like, that's not how you interview for a job. You go to a job and, you are bragging on yourself. You're talking about what you're bringing to the table. You're establishing value. You're cocky. You're so confident that they have to hire you. And once I made that mental shift, I got any job I applied for. But that wasn't easy, right? It took time and it took reps and it took practice. And but I gave myself time to do that, which was really important because you see so many guys who, they don't get to retire. The game retires them. And they're ready. They're holding on. They're waiting for a phone call. And I've seen so many of those guys I played with, guys I really care about. And I had to be sure I wasn't going to be in that position. So I tried to plan it out. And, look, things really worked out even better than I could have imagined.
You hit the lack of confidence when you're going into a job interview when you retire is so true, because I said the same thing. I'm like, I don't even want this job. Like, this has nothing to do with what I wanted to do. It was just a job. It was almost a way for me to try to train to get into these fields. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even want this job. And it's like, but it is like, you are completely exposed for the first time in your life. Like, you've always been that guy and or that girl, and you've always been able to take on those roles. And then when you walk away and you're like, oh shoot, this is out of my comfort zone. It's something I'm not used to doing. I'm not used to sitting and impressing and using my words. I'm used to doing it on the court. It's just a wild mind shift. And that's great advice, because you really do have to kind of be like, okay, what am I doing wrong? How do I readjust? And confidence is a huge thing. And it's tough to have confidence in something you don't know. Like we always say, I'm confident in my game because I worked my butt off on the off season. I was just going and going and going. So when that confidence was there, I was able to step on the court confidently. When you don't have that experience, it takes a hit. And that's a great advice for any young player or young athlete who's looking into retirement of what they need to do for an interview. Because that's exactly what it is. Just build your confidence. Yeah.
And so much of it is understanding your narrative and your value proposition, right? So, you walk out of a career playing overseas, no matter what level you played at, no matter how much money you made, doesn't matter, right? You're accustomed to a level of pressure on a daily basis that 99% of people on the planet never experience, right? They don't have to do their job with fans in the stands watching, right? They don't have to put themselves out there for the world to see, win or lose, success or failure every day, the way athletes do. So when you're able to now take the narrative and talk to, prospective employers in business talk and what that means, right? It means we know what it means. We know what it takes to, systematically improve on skills. We know it takes doing the same thing over and over and over again till you can't do it wrong, right? And again, not something that most people are accustomed to doing, right? Now, so not only have we done that, we've done it successfully. So successfully that we have made ourselves elite in a world full of people who just wish they had a taste of anything we were able to do. You talk about the competitiveness that you have to have. Nobody who's played professionally falls down in that space, right? We are the most competitive people you'll ever find. You have to be an absolute dog to survive 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 seasons as a professional athlete, because it requires you getting up every day with one single-minded focus and competing that day, being the best version of you and pushing your team and yourself to the limit. Like, that's what it is. And that's an everyday thing. And for us to be able to do that and then take that experience and skill and know-how into any other industry you're going to find success. You're going to find success. Now, part of it is not just telling the story, though. Now you have to go do it, which is, where you see a lot of guys have a struggle with, right? Because because they don't fully understand what they did to get to the places they arrived as a basketball player. They don't realize that they can just take that same formula and apply it to anything else, and they'll find the same level of success, because it's that intrinsic drive that's missing with so many other people. And this is what you can sell an employer on. Do I know how to do this job right now? Nope. Can I learn it? Yep. I will do whatever it takes to learn it. Not only will I learn it, I will kick your ass and everybody else you have in your job, in your office's ass doing it. So, put me in play and watch it happen. And it's that kind of confidence and that kind of, again, jargon that gets employers to be not just willing to hire you, but stumbling over themselves to get you into their office, because they know that what you bring to the table, they don't have. And that culture shift can not just make you successful, but the rest of their business.
I think about the grinders. We were grinders. I mean, if you play overseas and you play in the G League or the D League when we were playing, you're a grinder. Like you learn real early that it's not going to be just about the money. It's about the love of the game and your competitive spirit. So when you talk about that's what resonates with me is you really do learn to be like, I will, if you teach me this, I will dominate it. I will dominate it. Just teach me. And that's life. I mean, everyone in their job, no one knows everything going in. No one knows that. I mean, college will get you the education, but no one knows exactly what it's going to come until you're in it. And if you teach someone who's super competitive, who was a grinder like we were, I mean, it's a wrap. Like we're going to do it better because we've been in those situations our entire lives. Like we've been going from place to place. I mean, you remember like when you're in Greenville and like, you know, and you're in Fayetteville, like it's not the nicest accommodations. We're living in these little towns and just growing as a human being. And there's no better education, I think, than the NBA G League, D League experience, especially when we were putting on.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it's interesting. So, you know, got to play against your brother Jeff in college, and then saw him again in the D League. I think I'm a year ahead of him, and you know, it's just like you understand like how to keep a job, right? Because every day you're charged with demonstrating your value, and you know that's true overseas. That's true in the D League. Right. They're like your contract can say guaranteed, but you and I both know that doesn't mean anything. Right. The only guaranteed contracts in basketball are in the NBA. Everything else you have to earn every day. So, you know, it was always that. And it was always, you know, all right. And this is the other skill I've always told employers I have, and you have, Kevin, and so many guys who've done it overseas and women as well. I can walk into an environment, see what that team is missing, and be that thing, right? That's how you keep a job. That's how you have sustained success. That's how you get another job. That's how you make a living off of playing basketball. It's not just putting the ball in the hole, though that's a really important skill to have. It is looking at a team, diagnosing what they're missing, and figuring out how to be that missing piece.
And that adaptability has to happen so quick for us. Like you said, you have maybe a week-long job application, and you're expected to figure all of these things out, to figure out your team, to figure out the nuances of the system, and figure out where you fit in within a week. And if you don't, see ya, like you're on the next plane. It's pressure situation. But like you said, pressure builds diamonds. Those are the players that make it and can make it successful. And that's what we always tell. Like I always try to preach to athletes to know your value. Like we don't even realize it. Like coming back to the confidence, you don't realize your value because you're just, it's a constant grind. You're competing. But like when you really step back and be like, wow, I'm a valuable asset to anyone who would hire me. I'm a valuable asset. And once you kind of realize that, then it becomes a whole different mindset shift that you can really use to take you to another level of, you know, success post-career.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you even lean on the more obvious things that you know, every one of us athletes bring to the table in basketball. We have presence. We have presence. We step into a room, everybody is looking, this is what overseas famous means, right? Is that, you know, and you know, same thing, right? Am I famous? No. Do I look like I should be? Yes. And that is a commodity in any business, any client-facing role where you can walk in the room and immediately have a story to tell that people want to hear. Done. Like that's half the battle. That's what people can't buy. They can't purchase that anywhere. The experience we have, they can't purchase it anywhere. The grit we have, can't buy it anywhere. So we bring all that to the table. It's just a matter of understanding that you bring it and then being able to articulate it to a potential, you know, hiring manager, and then leveraging it as you go through the journey of learning a new job and finding success there.
Let's go into the G League, because the G League is, even from our time playing, it's been gaining so much recognition as this stepping stone that's going to take you into professional basketball in the NBA and overseas. It's such a big stepping stone. In your opinion, what makes the G League such a crucial platform for this player development, for this career advancement? Why is the G League the ultimate place to really better your basketball life?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start with my own story there. So I was in the first, draft camp for the D League when it started in 2001. So here I am in a camp with 180 other guys, and there was 8 teams with 10 roster spots. So we're fighting for 80 positions. And here I was out of school already a couple of years, had been overseas a little bit, seasons in Puerto Rico, seasons in Spain. I was in Venezuela, bounced around a little bit. And I'm walking into this space, and they give you, when you arrive, like a packet, and there's a list of camp attendees, right? So I look at the list, and it's like a who's who of college basketball for the last 5 years of people who were not in the NBA. I mean, some of them had a little NBA touch, cup of coffee here and there, but it was like recognizable names that you've seen on TV, on, NBC, CBS, Final Four. So I'm looking at these names, and I was a little like, whoa, wow, like how the hell did I get on this list? And then you get in the camp, and I realized pretty quickly, like, not only did I belong here, like I'm kicking some of their ass. Like they can't deal with me, right? Kids fresh out of school, they didn't know what to do with me at all, at all. So there's a guy there at the time, surprised the hell out of me, a young Chris Anderson, and I'm talking about like before the tattoos, straight out of community college, no experience playing anywhere really, and first time we're doing one-on-one stuff. I back him down pretty easily. I turn and shoot a jump hook. He goes up and gets it. And I was like, whoa, all right. He clearly stood out, right? His athleticism, his ability, his size clearly stood out. Except that the next 3 times that we did one-on-one and he guarded me, I pump faked him and dunked on him. But I mean, obviously, so it's that know-how that I had that made me, that put me in that level, and the confidence I had knowing I had been through the wars already a little bit, right? So I got to bring that. I was a late bloomer as a basketball player, so I was able to really find myself in the D League in terms of what I brought to the table, what NBA teams would be looking for, what overseas teams would be looking for, and how to improve in those things. So, it was that kind of experience for me. And I tell people all the time, it's the best business decision I ever made on a number of levels, right? It got me in an NBA workouts. Like without that, I would have never been in an NBA workout. I never got invited. I would have never been on their radar. I worked out with the Knicks and the Raptors, got calls from the Bucks. And, so those things happened just because I was in the D League. And then you think about like my next job was with a EuroLeague team in Poland. Right. And, beyond that, if you fast forward, my whole career at the NBA started because I was in a internship program while I was in grad school that was specifically for former players. If I don't play in the D League, I'm in Columbia for grad school, but there's no way I get that internship. No way without having spent that time I spent in the D League. So here I am now with a whole career built on a decision I made back in 2001. That at the time was like no money, right? $28,500 for whatever 5 months, which even, I wasn't making a killing anywhere at that time, but I was making more than that. But it was like this great opportunity that I was lucky enough to take that like launched me and helped me launch myself, in basketball and then post basketball.
The G really does have the ability. You just really hit on it, that how important it is not only to get your foot into the professional door, but also to get your foot into that NBA. I mean, we were talking last week, like there's all these names that you can kind of reach out to, the Kevin Carrs, the Chris Alperts, like the guys that have moved on in this business who you have that affiliation with because you sat there at a table and talked one-on-one with them, because that's what the G League is. It's like not this, in the NBA, you could they're having group meetings and there's big stars and stuff, but like the G, like you're sitting across the table from a guy who in the future could be like a huge success in the NBA. And it's nice that you have that connection still with the league. I always look at it and be like, yeah, now it's become the G and everyone knows about it, but like no one really knew about it back when we were playing. Like there was the NBDL and it was like, what is this? And then it was the D League, and people didn't really know. Now it's the G League. Be like, yeah, I played in there. Like, and people recognize that.
Yeah, a lot of credibility, and even look at the numbers. Like right now, I have some interns doing some work for me and some data analytics stuff. So, they were able to come up with some numbers for me. Close to 30%, a little more than 30% of all of the entire history of D League, G League players have played in the NBA for however long, right? Just touched the NBA. So that's a pretty significant number, right? If you take it and now compare it to what the numbers are of, say, Division I athletes or Power Five, NCAA athletes, basketball players, in terms of their, the numbers that of them that end up on NBA courts. I mean, that's a significant number. And then you look at this past season in the NBA, we have 47% of NBA players that played a G League game. 47%. Wow. And I guarantee you in 3 years, that number is going to be in the 60% range. Because the amount of guys who are taking the opportunity to get better in the G League and how it's being used by NBA teams is just growing, and that opportunity is growing. And all of that is built on the backs of guys like you and me and your brother Jeff, who we were in the trenches in the beginning that solidified the foundation that it's been able to be for what basketball currently is in the United States.
And you talked a little bit about your journey and stuff. So when you step into this role as executive director of the Next Gen Basketball Players Union, that's such a great position for a guy like you. Like we just talked about us, like my brother, you, me, like we had that. So when you step in, it's such a good perspective that you bring to this position because you've been there when it was kind of that league, and now you're there when it's this league, and you could see that. I mean, I just looked at that Joker quote, was talking about like, success, like in order to achieve success, you have to fail, and then you have to kind of overcome that failure and be even more successful and then fail again. And that's what's going to create. And like, we've been through that, we failed, and now you bring this unique perspective. What do you think, like, what insight do you want to offer as your new role for these young players?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things. I think I want the path that I was able to take and the programs I was able to leverage. I want that to be open to all of these guys. Like I had to scrap and, maintain contact with Kevin Carr and Dr. Hilliard, who were both, kind of in player development while we were in the D League. And that's why I was able to get that opportunity. I want that pathway to be wide open. I want to kick those doors open and make sure guys understand like what it means to be a part of the family, NBA family through the G League, what can be available, what's there for them, and then help them figure out and just put resources and support around them so that finding a path afterwards doesn't have to be that difficult. That we can help them leverage the experience, leverage the partnerships. There, how many partners the NBA and the G League have? And how many companies there are, like Fortune 500, there's tons of opportunities where their experience and their know-how, the grit, and all the things we talked about earlier can be valuable. And I want those doors to be wide open for guys who are coming behind us.
And that's great to hear, because there are the advances. We just talked about the advances that have been made in this game and the advances that have been made in the G League. So having that opportunity to provide that so that they're constantly thinking about it. I mean, I know how I talk to some NBA guys and they're like, hey, yeah, we have this program, like announcing programs and stuff. So having the ability to bring that to the whole entire world to the rest of the G League it's important, because like you said, we're all part of this family that is now this billion-dollar industry, but we're still all part of this family. So it's great to see that how much this is going to help these players.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then I think even, as guys, look, right now, the average guy spends about 2 years in the G League, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 seasons, and then, a lot of them are off overseas. I think there's a route where we can maintain support for them, staying connected with them, amplify their successes. I just saw on Instagram earlier today, a guy who's from Puerto Rico who, played with me briefly in the D League in Fayetteville, just had his number retired in Puerto Rico. Like those kind of things can be amplified and celebrated. Like he is a member of our alumni, and I think, being a part of that should mean something, it should be a significant, tangible success, and it's something that I think connecting all of us, all of us former D League, NBDL, G League alum, is just can be a really powerful thing. I mean, there's tons of experience someone like you and others can share, And, having that connection and that bond, now that builds something that could be really meaningful to a lot of guys going through this process, and then to our success going forward.
And you talk about the network that creates, this web of players, that both past and present, that can expand. And it's a ready-made network for all these young guys, and being able to utilize that, because we talked, like, there's so many opportunities that we can, as former G League guys, and now we're on a different path, but we're definitely more successful than we were when we were playing. Obviously, I was making $12,000, so hopefully I am in this industry. Right. Making $12,000 is not going to do it, but it's great to see that there's this ready-made network that is being created by you to help these young athletes with their endeavors, both during, post, and beyond. Yeah. And it's really great to see that this is happening, because it's such a necessity, and I look at it so positively.
Yeah. And I think the story we have to tell is, for me, is going to really resonate with your average American, like your average consumer. Like, we're talking about a story of climbing, clawing your way to the tops to get an opportunity you never even imagined was possible. Like I said, I went to Cornell. I was a late bloomer. I was, definitely had no illusions of being an NBA player. So, because of my time I spent in the D League, I ended up with, like, my first season being all league honorable mention, right out of nowhere. I went from not playing to, like, being the guy, and having, some success in that first season that put me in a position that, to be in, work NBA workouts and summer league invites and all of that. And I remember getting that first call. Like, my agent hit me, and he's like, "Yo, the Knicks want you to come." And, like, I don't remember speaking after that. Like, it took me about, a good hour of letting that sink in, that the Knicks had just called, me to bring me in for a workout. Like, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up watching the Knicks, and they want me. Like, you, sir, you sure? Really? But it's that, those kind of opportunities and those kind of stories about, literal dreams coming true that your average person is going to really relate to. At this stage in basketball, like, those elite guys, LeBron and KD, like, those guys have been elite since they were, like, 12 years old, right? So, it is just it's amazing to watch them kind of take that, young success and turn it into adult success. But what we're talking about is something that, these everybody has a dream, that can be realized or not, but to really see it happen in real time with our G League guys, is amazing. Like, somebody like Mac. Right, Mac, what he was able to do at the All-Star game, win the dunk contest, perform in the rookie game. I mean, those guys are living their dreams in real tangible ways, and, like, leaving it all out there, putting it all out there. And for me, there's, like, that's going to resonate. That's going to trigger. That's going to want people to watch and follow and tune in. And, I'm hoping that we can utilize some of that to build, something more for G League guys.
No, it's 100% true, because even explaining it to a child, like my daughter, she's 10, and explaining it, we're watching the dunk contest. I'm like, he plays in the same league that Dad played in. She's like, what? He's wearing a Sixers jersey. I'm like, okay, but listen, and I'm trying to explain it. So then going to a Delaware Bluecoats game and sitting there and being like, look, he's right here, he's playing. There's Jaden Springer. Like, there's these top level prospects who are able to play in these arenas, and people are able to see that next step. And it's great publicity for the league when Mac does something like that, because now you have a packed house for games in these, like, towns that are a little off the, not Philadelphia's, but there's the smaller cities. I think it's just tremendous what's happening, because you really are gaining so much exposure that this is a product that deserves to be looked at. This is a product that deserves to be shown, because these are still the best players in the world. I always said, like, you can kind of take those end of the bench NBA guys and some of those top G, and they're interchangeable. It's just what ends up happening. So when you see this and be like, these guys are so close, they don't even realize it. Yeah. It's a great product to see, and that's why I'm so excited for what the G League's going to be.
Absolutely. And then I think in terms of how that translates overseas, like, you look at, right now about a third of the NBA, almost a third is international guys.
Yeah.
You're seeing our last three MVPs, international guys. I mean, I think, it's impacting the game so much now, that, NBA game, that international talent is coming, and we're still sending talent that way.
Yeah.
That's been developed in the G League. And, so it's a really interesting dynamic that exists in basketball, where you're seeing, guys playing at super high levels, all over the world, and how that's all going to kind of, really build into something that, that we're able to see on the court now in NBA games.
And we had talked about that. We were talking last week about like those three last MVPs, all international players. And we talked about Giannis too, but like not just international, but they're bigs. And you have that like different flavor of basketball. It's like we played and the big guy was still there, but it was almost being phased out. And then you have that gap where like big guys weren't important. And now it's starting to kind of bring it back, because you're bringing that international where the big guy was still a necessity. That's the focal point of the offense. Everyone's running off of these zipper screens and stuff. And now it's like the big guy's coming back. And I know we had talked about it. It's exciting for us, because not everyone, it's fun to kind of have that, those like, did he travel or not, when Joker has like ridiculous footwork, and be like, I remember working on these moves as a big, and people don't work on it. Everything's like face up. And it's nice to see that that's making its way back into the NBA.
Yeah, and I mean, he demonstrated. Look, like, for me, immediately I picked Denver to win, just because when it got down to it, once Joel Embiid and Philly was gone, there's nobody who could now physically contend with him in the fourth quarter when he needs a bucket. He's going to bully ball you and go get a layup or a jump hook whenever he wants to, and there's nobody that could stop him. So for me, it was like, I think his growth there and his willingness to play like that, which, I think there's just some guys who aren't willing to do that anymore, right? You see guys with physicality, but that's just not how they want to play. And he's willing to do it. It's ugly. It's not sexy, but it is effective, and essentially has him not only, like literally breaking records. I mean, his numbers through the finals were incredible, ridiculous. And, like, I think now the trend is you're going to have to figure out how to put bigs in his way to get fouls, to be in, to physically contend with him, because he is taking that dad bod, which dad bod God is my favorite nickname, and he is destroying people in the paint.
Dad bod God, really, that's like Joker's, if he ever gets, and he's so, like, people get mad when they talk about him. They're like, oh, he lost the MVP trophy. Like, this is all an act. He can't not care. Like, people have, I'm like, that's what makes him great. He's just like, I'm doing this because I want to be the best. But like, your accolades that you look at aren't going to mean as much to me, because it means the world to me. That's the most important person. And he's got it down. Yeah. So when he eventually steps out of his shell and starts that dad bod, God pod, man, that's gonna be something right there.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny though, because you think about, like, I was fortunate. I was with some really good teams, and I won 9 championships as a pro. So I know that the celebration is great, and for a week, 2 weeks, maybe you're on top of the world, and then like there's the next season, and you got to get ready for it, and it's the next job. So I think to a degree he has that mentality about it. But it's fun to see, like, even like he has his daughter, he like, this is great, puts it down, like celebrating with your family and your teammates and all, like, that's actually what really matters, and the things that you'll really remember. Yes. I have championship rings sitting in a box somewhere. I don't pull them out, but the memories and the connection I have with the guys I played and won with, like, those are forever memories and forever connections. I can call any of them right now, and we immediately go back to that place, and we have champagne dripping in our eyes, and it's burning. And in some countries, it wasn't even champagne; it was beer. And you think about those times, and it's so much fun to remember. And like, I feel like he really appreciates that part of it, and the rest of it is just noise.
Last question, because this has been great. Last question. As your role, what message do you have for those future G League players regarding that role, that they're going to be the ones shaping this league's future and how they can use their voices to build this, especially with the next gen players union. Like you guys, there's an opportunity for these players to really use their voices to show like the things that are going to help them, the things that are going to be effective in their future, the things that when you look at, you're going to be like, okay, this works with what these players need. So when we look at that, like what do you say to those young players who are preparing this journey and knowing that they are going to be the ones that are going to take this forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would, as always, say, like, let's invest in ourselves. So that means invest our time, invest our energy, our ideas. Solidarity when it comes to, player movements and player unions is so important. If we're all on the same page, if we're all the same thing that makes teams good, it is, 5 of us on the court with the same goal, with the same vision of how we're going to achieve that goal. So I'm asking all these guys to now come in, like get in here, participate, engage. Let's all have the same goal with the same vision, and we can achieve anything we want, right? I mean, like I said, the future of the NBA is entwined with the G League. The G League is their biggest tool for development. The reason why the talent is so amazing right now is because it's being developed. There's a ton of guys whose careers passed them by because they didn't have an opportunity to come in the G League and work on some things. And I guarantee you there's a ton of guys, first round draft picks who, whose career was cut short because of that. So, I'm asking guys like, let's get close, reach out. Let's talk about what can be better, where the opportunities are. And I think, we can find and leverage each other's power and make a huge difference in what this experience can mean for anybody coming through the G League.
Well, Jeff, I truly appreciate your time. This is really fun to speak with you about what you're doing, about how you got here. And we are very excited to see the positive impact that you will have on the NBA G League for the players, both on and off the court. So we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Kev. I appreciate you, man, and keep doing your thing. I love hearing the stories and hearing from guys. So, I'll keep tuning in. And as esteemed alumni from our glorious D League past, you know what I'm saying? You're always held in high regard, man. So really appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And thanks everyone for listening this week to the Overseas Famous podcast. We'll see you guys next week with some more fun, with some NIL and young college athletes for our little segment we have coming up. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.